Welcome back. President Joe Biden announced an ambitious, some might say quixotic, plan for comprehensive immigration reform that would clear a pathway to citizenship for 11 million people. It would also resolve the issue of the Dreamers, address guest worker programs for farmers, and a host of other measures. For Republicans like Al Cardenas, this plan is long overdue. The former head of the Florida Republican Party, Cardenas also led CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference. And along with a bipartisan group meeting next week, he is hoping to convince his fellow Republicans this issue needs to be resolved. We've been talking about immigration reform in this country for years. The last substantive immigration reform was under Ronald Reagan. What makes you optimistic, or are you optimistic, that we can get some form of immigration reform through now?
Well, the primary reason for optimism is that President Biden is bringing it to the floor within the first 100 days of his administration. I had personally talked to President Bush about this, and he tells me that it requires so much political capital to pass immigration reform that by the time he got to it, he had spent most of his political capital and wasn't able to generate enough political energy to get it passed. Similar thing happened with President Obama. I don't think he wanted to spend as much political capital. He also waited a while, and then he ended up doing executive orders knowing that he couldn't get significant passage done. So the primary reason there's optimism is that there's a lot of goodwill out there, at least on the Democrat side, to stay united and support President Biden on his effort. We've been at this for 14 years and putting stuff on the table and not seeing passage. Some of it has been political, and a lot of it has been genuine disagreement. So we'll see how it happens this time around. But keep in mind that the folks that they've wanted to legalize now are here still 14, 15 years later, and they've had children, and their children have had children. So it's more than due time for us to normalize things and have the rule of law applied to everyone, and I hope that happens.
You're participating in sort of a group discussion, a conference that are bringing together a lot of different folks from the Democratic side, the Republican side, to try to sort of chart a way forward to see how, and correct me if I'm wrong, but to see how you can help in this process get something done. It's not necessarily that you're endorsing the president's plan, but you'd like to see something, and this group, as I understand it, is coming together to try to see what is possible. Am I characterizing it right? And tell me what the plans are for this group going forward.
That's a great summary of it. We believe that if comprehensive immigration reform is going to pass, it's going to be passed because of the support of the center left and the center right, alongside those who are supportive of the president. And so what we want to see is what the White House proposed something you're willing to support. If not, if you and the Senate are going to conference with the House, what of that proposal is it that you're willing to have 60 votes on? And that's obviously in today's environment a tough measure. You need 10 Republican senators in order to pass comprehensive immigration reform. And in my opinion, the bottom line is that that's what it's all about. So our goal is to define what these 10 Republican senators are willing to accept, to work with them and be persuasive, to see what finally could be palatable so you could get to 60 votes in the Senate, and hope that the House gets its job done, which I think they will.
Because I think you've identified the problem. You've got to get to 60, because of the filibuster in the Senate, and there's no inclination the filibuster is going to go away. It's going to stay. That's been made pretty clear by folks. It's frustrating for Democrats, but it's been frustrating on both sides, depending on who's in power. The 60-vote threshold, when you look back on the last major effort with the so-called Gang of 8, 4 Democratic senators, 4 Republican senators, I had to double check and go back and look. The 4 Republican senators, none of them, I think, are in favor of any type of reform right now. I mean, if you look at Jeff Flake was one of the Gang of Eight. He's no longer in the Senate. John McCain, of course, he passed away. Marco Rubio has flat out said he will not support comprehensive immigration reform. And Lindsey Graham was the fourth Republican in the Gang of Eight, and he doesn't seem to be supportive of it. So if the folks who in the past were supportive of it, they're not supporting it now, and the Senate is more conservative and divided than ever, what do you think is possible here?
Well, I've had personal conversations with some of the Republican senators, and I can tell you senators like John Cornyn of Texas, senators like Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, even Lindsey Graham, whom you mentioned. There's enough synergy there to get to 10. Not easy, but certainly doable, and maybe a couple more than 10. So it's what's contained in the final bill that passes that will determine whether you can get 10 Republican senators to support this bill and what that bill looks like. But I'm confident you could get immigration reform passed. The key is how much willing is the White House going to be to negotiate? But if the question is, can you get 10 Republican senators to support immigration reform in a way that they have a comfort level, the answer is yes.
And I think that's the interesting question: immigration reform versus comprehensive immigration reform. I know from interviewing Marco Rubio, he felt burnt in the process back in I guess it was 2013 when the Gang of Eight made their effort for comprehensive reform. And what he has told me is he does not believe that the Senate will ever pass anything comprehensive because it becomes too big, that there are elements of it that somebody will oppose. Do you think that maybe a better approach might be to break it up, deal with the Dreamers, deal with guest worker programs, deal with different aspects of it, border security, or does it have to be all or nothing?
Well, that's the backup plan, right? And I know that after that Gang of Eight failure, Senator Rubio's become despondent about the likelihood of comprehensive immigration reform. And it could be that at the end of this effort, there's a decision made to pass immigration reform in sections. As a matter of fact, there's some bills already in the House being looked at that go along the lines of what Senator Rubio is suggesting. But I think that White House is going to make a strong drive for this. I hope they're willing to negotiate with 10, 12 Republican senators in the Senate so that something of a comprehensive nature gets to pass, and then we're done. We're done hopefully for quite a while.
I want to just pivot for a second to talk about Republican politics. You are the former chairman of the Florida Republican Party a number of years ago. You were also chairman of the American Conservative Union. You are a conservative. What do you see as the state of the Republican Party right now?
Well, we've gone through phases, none as challenging as this one. We've always had, to deal with the Pat Roberts group at one time, libertarians, the John Birch Society. We've always had challenges within our own family. This one's different because it's got a populist take, and we have a very president with a very powerful personality who literally took over the party in ways that we had never seen before. And so the challenge now is you've got Republicans running out there who are bewildered by their biggest challenge, and that is, am I going to be primaried if I'm not supportive of Donald Trump enough? And the only way this thing is going to settle down is by answering how much of a shelf life does President Trump have, is number one. Number two, what will happen in the 2022 elections? Will enough Republicans get primaried by folks that Donald Trump is supporting and lose those elections? That'll make a big difference. If they win those elections, then Donald Trump's shelf life is shorter. But at some point in time, if you want to have peace within the party, you can't have the biggest challenge or elected officials that exist, and that is the real possibility of being primaried by people who are not supportive of the rank and file Republican Party, but those who are on the extreme right or so tied into the populist movement that all they want to do is is a sworn alliance to President Trump.
Is Donald Trump still the head of the Republican Party as far as you can tell?
I think so. I think as of today, this window of time, you have to say he is. Will he be considered as such after the 2022 elections? That's the first big challenge. And as I say, anybody who's out of office has a certain shelf life. Some are longer than others. Like the Clintons have had a pretty long shelf life. Will the Trump phenomena have a long-lasting shelf life? I don't know the answer to that. I think people in important positions within the party are loyal to Trump more out of fear than out of love. And if you lose fear, you lose your shelf life capability. So we'll see how that goes. No one really knows at this point.
Well, what does it say to you about those Republicans who are more fearful of him than they are of upholding their duties as office holders? That they're more afraid of losing an election than they are of staking a claim as to what's right and what's wrong?
Well, I don't think that solely applies to Republicans. I think most folks in elected office want to stay there. And that same fear of losing office applies across the board. I'm personally disappointed, obviously, because I've never liked Donald Trump for a number of reasons, but I love my party and I'm staying where it is. And I'm hoping that we hit a new cycle where we once again can talk about our differences being philosophical rather than personal. And that this attitude of personalizing everything and demonizing people comes to an end, or else we're not going to have a Republican Party.
Did you think the Senate should have convicted Donald Trump?
Yes. Yes.
We'll be right back.